Let's bring in law enforcement officials. First off, Danny Coulson. He's in Fort Worth, Texas, former top official in the FBI. Also with us tonight, our good friend in Palm City, Florida, Dan Bongino, former NYPD officer and Secret Service agent. First off to you, Dan. From what we know, I'm surprised how little we know from the last time we spoke. Agitated about loud music, gambling all day. Seems as though there was nobody else in the room. It doesn't mean he didn't have any help. What do you put together so far?
Yeah, this is just bizarre, Brian. I mean, this case is a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma. It's perplexing. I mean, when you look at cases, from my experience in the Secret Service, of what we would call targeted violence, not random acts of violence, not street crime, targeted violence, school shootings, assassination attempts, all of the modeling that goes into this, the models of this type of behavior and the pre-attack indicators are not there. They're not there. There's nobody coming forward saying, hey, I saw something unusual. He said something about an attack, or he was angry at this group or that group. That usually happens in these types of cases. We're seeing none of that. As Dan Springer just said, we're 4.5 days in.
Right.
And nobody's come forward that saw anything suspicious. Very bizarre.
Danny, I know you've seen a lot. Do you factor this in, the fact that he went on 20 cruises, 9 with this Mary Lou Danley, and the stops include Spain, Italy, Greece, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates. Are we looking there right now, do you think?
Absolutely. They're looking at cruise line manifests. They're looking at every place he went. I think one thing we have to keep in mind here is we may never know. We don't like to say that. Dan doesn't like to say it from the point of view of the Secret Service, NYPD, as an FBI agent. I never want to say I don't know, but I'm afraid we may be approaching the time where we have to say, we don't know what was in this guy's head. We can recreate his life. Unfortunately, we can't recreate his brain, and there may be the sticking point. We may never know what was in this guy's mind. The only key that we may have is the girlfriend. If anybody knows, it will be her.
Or the other woman that he evidently was with during the day. We don't know what kind of relationship that is. But if you want to see another woman, the best thing you could do is give your girlfriend a ticket to the Philippines and indicate you want to break up, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably not the best sign. That's probably not the best sign for your relationship when you give a one-way ticket over to another country. But, Danny's right, though. The best vehicle into this guy's mind right now, and potentially the only one we know about, is going to be the girlfriend. I think it's very telling as well, Brian, that the FBI interview with her, which is always thorough, was close to 6 to 8 hours long by reports I've seen, which says they went in there with a bunch of questions that they must have had in advance. They must have had some information and some leads. And it's good to know that the public, we don't need to know everything. But right. Yes, the girlfriend is really the only solid lead we have.
As we're preparing for this show, Danny, I don't know how close you had a chance to look at this indictment. It has come down from the acting Manhattan U.S. attorney. They have unsealed charges against 3 participants in an international terror plot that was going to slam into New York City in 2016. The ages go from 37 to 19 and 2 19-year-olds. They were going to come here and shoot up the place. They had an intricate plan. It was unwound by the FBI. And again, they wanted to create a mini 9/11. These men allegedly plotted to conduct bombings and shootings at the same time. And they always look at Midtown Manhattan, it seems. But they were stopped, they were analyzed, and this thing was thwarted. All 3 are under arrest. One goes all the way back to Pakistan. For the life of me, I'm so glad, Danny Coulson. I don't know how you spot 3 people like this and stop them ahead of time.
They had advanced information, clearly, and this is not an FBI case, Brian. It's a law enforcement case, and I think we need to focus on that. This is like a corporation of intelligence agencies, law enforcement agencies, literally all over the world. I'm sure it's a product of the JTF in New York City. They did an incredible job, and the tragedy we're looking at in Vegas would have paled but in comparison to what would have taken place here. This was a huge plot. It's a great day for the United States, and we may have a victory here, but you know what? We got to have another victory tomorrow because these guys are going to keep coming.
They are. The FBI and NYPD, and of course, that's how you celebrate Ramadan if you're a radical Islamist. You go to New York City and try to kill people, Dan. And in between, we know about the Times Square bomber. This was going to be 3 guys, one from Canada who was arrested in New Jersey, another one from Pakistan. And by the way, there's also a link to the Philippines with the 37-year-old. He was the one wiring money for this plot.
Yeah, Brian, this is really sad. I mean, we're going to be dealing with this for a very long time. And when I say this, I mean the threat from soft target tactical assaults using small weapons, going into subways with firearms, shooting and using explosives. They've gotten away, these big terror groups, from the 9/11 spectacular style attacks. I don't mean that qualitatively. I mean that in their body counts, because it takes too much logistics and training. It takes almost no logistics at all to put together one of these low-yield explosives and just pull a trigger. And when you have the savage mind these people do, we're going to be dealing with this for a long time. It's really sad, but we're in a new world.
So
it's
Danny,
not necessarily a great one either.
And we're right in Midtown Manhattan, and I always walk down Times Square, and we always respond. And we respond because we study other terror attacks. For example, in Nice, France, as that truck guy rents a truck and starts running over people, killing 2 from Texas, by the way. Now we have barriers on the sidewalks preventing that. You literally can't walk 3 feet with having a barrier. How do you think we're going to react to this plot in particular as this becomes prevalent? This is now public knowledge. And how do we react, Danny, now on New Year's Eve with Las Vegas as a learning tool?
Well, I think the world has changed again. Dan referred to that. We have to worry about now dump trucks that run over people, but now we have to worry about high ground. We saw it in Dallas, Texas, when there was an attack on a demonstration there. We've seen it in Las Vegas, and these guys learn from each other. So no longer do we, as security people, have to secure the ground. I've got to secure the high ground, and probably next I've got to secure against drones. That's the next weapon that we'll be dealing with. So I think the world has changed, and we have to look at it differently.
I know. I mean, for example, there used to be a coveted apartment to be able to go see, let's say, the Thanksgiving Day parade from a high end. Dan, if I gave you the assignment as a private citizen with your security background, hey, secure 42nd Street from 42nd to 48th Street, what do? You go into every apartment? You knock on every door? You know how costly that is?
Yeah, you don't. People used to ask me in the Secret Service, how do you secure the inauguration parade route when the President and Obama and Trump get out and they wave? And the answer is you don't. You secure it one step at a time. You have to make big things really small. But Danny brought up a fantastic point. Brian, the idea of an attack from above, an elevated counter-sniper position on a perch, is not something that, security people had considered it, but the general public, thankfully, hadn't had to consider it before Las Vegas. But think about the danger of this attack. Everything you've been told, everything about being in one of these active shooting scenarios goes out the window. What are you going to do? Duck and cover? Get flat on the ground? The bullets are coming from an elevated position that are going to elevate over the cover and concealment. I mean, Danny's absolutely right. Between drones and elevated sniper attacks, sadly, again, I mean, no need to panic. They're likely to be involved in this is small, but it is a new day.
I want you guys to comment on this. You're 2 law enforcement experts. If I tend to put you in a terrorist situation, you're going to react professionally. But you know what I'm also finding in listening to these interviews, especially Sean's with the survivor who stood up even though he had a bullet in his leg to meet the president. You know what he said? I pre-thought to myself, what would I do if this ever happened to me? And I said, I could get shot laying on the ground or running away. I'd rather run to the bullets. Don't all the viewers watching right now and the radio listeners on satellite radio have to think to themselves, what if it's me? How do I act? You all have to be responsible now, not the FBI Secret Service guys that I'm talking to, but all the American citizens have to ask themselves, what do I do if it's me next? Right, Danny?
Absolutely. And one thing to remember, the police are minutes away, but seconds matter. And the first thing you have to do is believe it's happening. Don't stand there in disbelief thinking it's firecrackers. And don't get on the ground, run, move, be a moving target. And in a situation like we're dealing with, talking about today, that's your best option. Run, get inside, get under cover.
Right. Or if you're Dan Bongino, you punch him in the face because you're an MMA guy.
Yeah, I prefer the triangle choke. But my best tip, remember, people's instinct when they're in the red zone, their instinct is going to be to go out of the entrance they came in. There may be an exit closer to you. So Danny's absolutely right. Get out of there, but look around for the closest exit. It may not be where you came in, and you'll override that instinct to maybe travel an extra distance and go out the entrance. That's the best tip I can give for people.
Absolutely. Save yourself, not take the guy out, and help other people. We saw that in Las Vegas. And if you're in New York, you got to know that's got to be in the back of your mind. Danny Coulson, Dan Bongino, thanks so much.